Tears of Gaia by Redback Spino. Chapter 4 At Niagara Falls Sanctuary. And suddenly Sanctuary from Kingdom Hearts is playing in my head. The old mare pushed the door of her cottage open, the hinges creaking almost as much as her joints. She could barely get 4 paces inside the house before she bumped into the tail of one of her guests. Squinting in the little light, she saw that the 6 ponies had not even passed the threshold, and were huddled together on the porch.
Come on, you lot. Go on in and make yourselves at home,
she said, gently nudging Fluttershy with her head. Hesitantly, they made their way through the tiny hallway and into the dining room, where they found a small round table surrounded by 7 small stools.
Sit yourselves down, girls. I'll get started on the tea.
The old pony eased her way through the crowded room and rounded a corner that was presumably the kitchen. As the group of ponies sat down, each of them noticed for the first time how dry they were. When they were rematerialized after Twilight Teleport's belt, they had been drenched from the rain outside. Even their cloaks had proven powerless against the downpour, and had been heavy with water. But as soon as they rested their flanks at their respective stool, each pony found themselves suddenly warm and dry. Their cloaks felt as if they had just come off the coastline after a hot summer's day. But before they could put their heads together in discussion about how could this be, the old pony's voice rang down from the kitchen.
How do you like your tea, then?
But the 6 mares remained silent, still shaking from their encounter less than 10 minutes ago. When the old pony received no reply, she had,
I'll just bring out the cream and sugar bowl and let you help yourselves. Shall I?
Yeah, that would be best. Twilight was the first to find her voice. Excuse me, are you Roanoke?
Yep, I'm Roanoke, and Roanoke is me. How did you know me name?
Asked Roanoke as she returned, balancing a tray on her head, laden with a sugar bowl and a small ceramic jug of cream, along with a small plate of biscuits, which Pinkie Pie eagerly dug into.
Well, we were sheltering from the rain at a little inn not far from here, Rarity replied. Unfortunately, they didn't have any accommodation, but they did say that there was a smell up this way named Roanoke, and she offered us shelter.
Oh, you mean old Butterbeer?
Roanoke's face creased as he smiled.
That's mighty kind of him, too. And not just toughing you out at closing time with no place to go.
So, you'll let us stay then?
She nodded. Of course! Can't have a bunch of pretty fairies as yourselves outside in this weather.
Pinkie Pie giggled through her mouthful of custard cream.
Butterbeer said the exact same thing. Sounds like him. Yes, you can stay as long as you want. Though I imagine that will be long, judging by those bags of yours.
Roanoke's ears perked as he heard the whistle of the kettle in the kitchen. Bags, bags. Rainbow Dash suddenly stood up, pointing an accusing hoof in the old mare's direction. Hey! Our bags! You said you were bringing in our bags!
No, dear, I never said that.
The princess faltered. Huh? What do you mean? Didn't you say you... Roanoke returned, kettle clenched her teeth, a teapot looped around her tail.
I mean what I say, young'un. I never said I'd be bringing in your bags. I said they'd be brought in. Pass a furve, you see.
All 6 ponies jumped as there was a sudden knock on the door. But Roanoke simply set down the kettle and teapot and went to answer.
They'll be them now.
Here, I'll help you, Twilight called as he got up and followed her to the porch. But when Roanoke pulled the door open, there was no pony there. The only thing on the doorstep was the pile of saddlebags. Twilight poked her head throughout the door and peeked left and right, but saw no pony in sight. But who brought them?
Come on, Missy, let's chat more action. Let's get the bags in here and dry that.
Roanoke shoved her aside and began dragging the saddlebags onto the porch. Twilight simply shrugged and did the same, pulling each heavy bag onto the porch and setting them down in a line. But just as she brought in the first bag, she gasped as, once the bag passed the threshold of the house, it suddenly became dry right before her wide eyes.
Did you see?
Twilight started in shock, as Roanoke dragged another bag inside. Once again, the bag suddenly seemed to dry out in an instant when it passed through the doorway. There was no steam, no fading in the dark patches, no dripping. It just wasn't wet anymore.
How is that possible? You say something. How does it do that? Those bags, they just suddenly dried out when we brought them inside. Oh, that.
Roanoke waved a hood decisively.
That happens all the time. It's just funny that way.
So, you didn't enchant it or something?
Twilight asked, before a clapping of her hoof came to her mouth as she realized how silly that question was.
Do I look like a unicorn?
the old mare asked, bowing her head to show that, indeed, there was no horn amongst her gray mane. Twilight scratched her head sleeplessly. Yeah, stupid question. Eager to change the subject, she cast an eye over the shadow bags, lined up along the wall of the porch, miraculously dry. It was then she was noticed something was off. Hey, there are only 5 bags here. Roanoke looked at her quizzically.
You mean ye had more?
Yeah, we had 6, 1 for each of us, the unicorn replied.
Really? There were only 5 when ye got here.
Please, Worthy! Called Applejack from the dining room. Twilight and Roanoke returned, took their seats at the table. Twilight perching on her stool, and Roanoke curling up in the large, moth-eaten armchair. So, our sailmates are safe and sound, then? Asked Applejack, as Rarity poured her cup of steaming tea. Twilight sighed, taking a sip from her own cup. All except 1. I only counted 5 bags, and Roanoke said that we only had 5 when we arrived here.
How can you not notice? It was you who didn't have any saddlebag.
This unicorn sputtered and coughed as he nearly avoided a spit take.
But me?
Then that means... Oh, Celestia, I dropped my bags when we got ambushed! Twilight, she detensively slumped forward until her head rested on top of the tabletop.
Ambushed? By what, Twilight?
Her ears perked up as Twilight heard Roanoke say her name. Wait, how do you know my name?
Ha! How could she not know us?
Rainbow said with a smirk.
The 6 of us are practically celebrities. She's probably read about us in the papers.
But the old mare shook her head.
Nah, I don't get any papers out here.
Dash was slightly taken aback.
Maybe she heard about us on the radio? Never had one.
The princess just threw her forelegs in frustration.
Well then, how do you know us?
Don't rightly know, replied Roanoke. It's like the whole deal with the threshold. Stuff funny that way. But, anywho, you say you were ambushed by whom?
Twilight took another sip of her tea and put down her cup. I'm not sure. I didn't get much of a look at him. We were walking across the plains just after we left Butterbeer's Inn. Rarity spotted them in the distance coming after him, so we picked up the pace, but before we knew it, we were surrounded.
But don't think we didn't give him a good fight or anything, Rainbow interrupted. We sure didn't go easy on him.
Twilight saw Pegasus a quick disapproving glance before continuing. Well, yes, we did try to defend ourselves for a while, but pretty soon we were getting overwhelmed, so I teleported us out here. Roanoke chuckled.
And lucky for you, you landed right at my doorstep.
But, why did those things attack us in the first place?
Fluttershy at last broke her silence.
What were they after?
Applejack shrugged. Maybe they were bandits? I mean, a bunch of mares in the middle of the night in the pouring rain. Maybe they just reckoned we were an easy target.
Maybe,
Twilight muttered. What I'm more bothered about is exactly what those things were. At first I thought they were just ponies, but I'm not so sure.
They were most certainly not ponies, Twilight,
responded Rarity.
That whole ordeal's a bit hazy in my memory, but I distinctly remember at least one of those brutes had claws.
Besides, did any of y'all see any ponies with eyes like that before? All black and yellow with no eyes. Applejack had a point. The 6 ponies all clearly remembered the eyes of those things. Devoid with whiteness, pure black, broken only by a ring of bright yellow. Twilight leaned forward to rest her chin on the table again. Well, whatever they were, they probably got my bag now, and all of my notes and maps on where to go.
Can't you remember any of it?
Pinky asked. Twilight shook her head. No, I wrote it down so I wouldn't have to remember it. An awkward silence hung in the room. The only sound was the crackling of the fireplace in the next room, and the pitter-patter of rain on the roof outside. Each pony dwelled on their thoughts about the events of that day, trying to make sense of the mysterious attack. Finally, it was Roanoke who broke the silence.
Well, this ain't the time for dwelling on such things. High time you girls were in bed, resting. Finish your tea now.
She proceeded to gather up the tableware and load it back onto the tray. The ponies drank down the last dregs of tea and got up, ready for a good night's sleep. It was only when they reached the hallway, when they realized they had no idea where to go.
Oh, of course, I forgot to say, there's no guest rooms in the cottage. You'll be better off in the guest house.
Rainbow Dazzled groaned.
Oh, come on! You mean we gotta go out in the rain again?
Roanoke, however, smiled sagely.
Oh, don't fret none. It might be raining outside, but that doesn't mean you'll get wet.
But that doesn't make... Oh, never mind. So, where's this gatehouse? Twilight asked, now becoming impatient for a chance to sleep. The old mare opened the door and pointed out to the left of the house, towards the falls.
Just over that way. The lights are on, so you see in the dark. And your bags are still be waiting for there for ye.
A little young escaped Applejack's road. Oh, well, don't know about y'all, but I'm more than ready to hit the hay myself.
Lead the way, Applejack.
Rarity added, as the ponies once again donned their makeshift cloaks and headed out the door. But before closing the door, Twilight paused.
Wait, what do you mean our bags will still be waiting for us here? They're all here in this cottage.
I mean just what I say, Twilight Sparkle.
Roanoke's eyes twinkled as he smiled.
When you reach the guest house, these bags will be there.
Except mine, of course. Twilight harumphed, her ears dripping glimly.
Now, don't you fret too much. I have a feeling you'll turn up sooner or later. Sweet dreams to ye and your friends.
Without another word, she closed the door, and leaving a rather confused Twilight on the doorstep.
Turn up sooner or later? Does she think some pony will just turn up on my doorstep and say, "Excuse me, I think you dropped this," and hand me my bag?
The unicorn muttered to herself, though half-minded that I had some sort of explanation for the old mare. But she withdrew her forehoof just as she could knock on the door and hurried after her friends to the guest house.
Forget it, she thought. I need some sleep, and I have quite enough strength in this for one day.
Unfortunately for her, fate had other ideas. The gibbous moon hung high in the sky over Niagara Falls, casting small pools of silvery white light through the windows of the guest house, with its 6 sleeping occupants. Or rather, 5 sleeping and 1 wide awake. No matter what she did, Twilight Sparkle could not find the peace of sleep. All through the night she tossed and turned, her bedspread becoming as entangled and chaotic as her thoughts. Endlessly listening to the gentle snores of her friends in their own beds, she lay staring up at the pale ceiling, as chaotic as when a small contingent of bees is trapped beneath a bucket or in a jar, and their buzzing reverberates all through the container. So were the thoughts milling about in her mind. Not since her first discovery of the pinky sense had so many questions been presented to her at once. Ever since she and her friends had left the warm welcome, it seemed the sense of logic had taken a holiday. She rolled over and could see Applejack, Pinky, and Rarity fast asleep in their small but extremely soft and comfortable beds. The first mystery was the sudden appearance of those strange creatures out of the plains. Who were they? And indeed, what were they? Black and yellow eyes, snarling cruel voices, and now claws. Even thinking back to all the books she skimmed about mystical monsters and supernatural creatures yielded no results. Not even the monsters, ghouls, and legends, and trashy horror stories did not match them.
Fan ponies? No legends about fan ponies ever mentioned claws, and their eyes were always red. Some stories mentioned fan ponies changing eye color, but then again, they also mentioned their skin shining like diamonds in the sunlight, so their credibility is debatable. Zombies? Nah, they were too fast. They could speak too. Zombies can't speak, right?
Applejack stirred and snuffled in her sleep as Twilight smacked herself gently in the forehead, her hoof making a resounding clack against her skull. She froze, holding her breath until she was sure Applejack had not been woken up. She frowned.
Really? Trying to apply logic to ghost stories? Is this really what I've fallen to now?
The unicorn rolled over again and found herself facing the window. Outside she could see the moon hanging high in the blackness outside, its white glow illuminating the occasional raindrop that passed through the window, looking like tiny white gemstones falling from the sky. The mysterious scenes outside, Twilight dwelt also on the fairy place she and her friends were calling home for the night. It all started at the moment she and her friends arrived in front of those 2 white pillars, and they were greeted by old Roanoke, who somehow was expecting them. Since then, nothing made sense.
Who brought our bags to the doorstep? How was it that they suddenly became dry when they were brought indoors? And what Roanoke mean turns up sooner or later?
Even the weather made little sense. True to the old mare's words, they walked through the rain from her cottage to the guest house and stayed completely dry. She had barely even felt the rain upon her, and once they reached the guest house, neither she nor any of her friends were even so much as damped. Then there was Roanoke herself.
How did she know we were coming? Twilight asked herself. How was she so unfazed by our arrival? And how did she know my name?
Twilight paused in her thoughts when she heard something outside, the gentle patting of hooves on the grass. Raising her head, she could look over the top of the windowsill, beyond the fence of the garden that surrounded the guest house. She saw a figure, hunched in cloak, and walked slowly past out of sight. The unicorn glanced over her shoulder. Each of her friends fast asleep in their own bed. No sense of waking them up for the sake of my own curiosity. Sliding covers down, Twilight slipped over the bed until her hooves touched the floor. Without sound, she tiptoed past her snoring friends and twisted the doorknob.
Twilight?
Twilight froze, the door half open. Applejack, the nearest to the door, had stirred in her sleep, gazed up at the unicorn with the half-open eyes.
Well, what are y'all doing? You can't go out now. Let's see who's there. Dice and...
Shooby-doo, shoot-doopy-doo.
Trying desperately not to giggle, Twilight patted her friend on the head.
I'll keep that in mind, Applejack. Go back to sleep now.
Applejack nodded and closed her eyes once more. Within seconds, she was snoring again. Satisfied that all of her friends were fast asleep, Twilight gently eased the door closed, grabbed her cloak from where she and her friends had heaped them by the door, and headed out. The rain got up considerably, reduced to now nothing more than a drizzle. As before, she could see the rain falling on and around her, but felt nothing. She peered ahead through the mist and saw the figure up ahead, walking through the colonnade. Twilight picked up the pace and hurried after her, running as silently as she could. She followed the figure like this for a few good minutes, trying along outside the colonnade, but until she was right alongside the figure. By the bent double stance and ponderous gait, she knew it had to be Roanoke. But why must he be outside? As he silently padded after her, Twilight heard on the night air a low rumbling sound. As she and Roanoke neared the colonnade, the rumble grew louder and more distinct, until Twilight finally placed it. The falls. Indeed it was. The colonnade stretched up the central slope, till it came up to the end near on a ledge that overhung a small lake. A small stream branched off from one end of the lake, no doubt growing into the river that she and her friends had followed. At the other end was the falls. It was almost as wide as the lake itself, sending torrents of foaming water over the ridge, where its source lay in the mountainside somewhere. Huge clouds of mist and spray were sent up at the bottom of the waterfall, the likes of which no doubt cast a small rainbow in the sunlight. And yet, for all of its size and intensity, the acre was unearthly quiet. Not silent, not by a long shot, but not nearly as loud as a waterfall of this scale should be. Instead of the hissing roar of water right next to them, there was little more than a low rumble, as if listening to a waterfall from far away, from within a dense forest. She was sure there was something else to it, but Twilight could not put her hoof on it. From her hiding place behind a bush, Twilight saw old Roanoke reach the top of her ledge, where some craftsman had built a small stone structure. It was a relatively simple affair, a dome set atop of ringed pillars, all carved from white marble. As he edged closer and closer, Twilight made out a small bench inside the marble gazebo, seemingly carved from white stone, where Roanoke seated herself.
Come up here, Twilight. The view is lovely.
Her ears perked as she jumped with a small squeak, making the bushes rustle. Trying to fight back the awkward blush on her cheeks, Twilight raised her head and hesitantly stepped out from behind the bush and climbed up the slope. As she entered the gazebo, Roanoke smiled up at her and slid over slightly, giving her space on a bench.
Oh, thanks. Sorry for following you like this.
It's all right,
Roanoke replied as he gazed out over the lake.
Actually, it's nice to have some pony up here with me for once. Some pony to share the view with.
Twilight nodded.
It is a lovely view from up here.
From their point on the ledge, she could see right across the lake, past the falls, and into the darkness on the other side. Something clicked on her mind as she came to a realization.
That was so weird about the lake! There's no ripples!
Eh?
Roanoke raised a brow. Twilight put a hoof in the water.
I was trying to figure out what was so off about the lake. Is that there aren't any ripples. A huge waterfall like this should have waves all over the lake, but there's nothing. This whole thing is totally still.
The old mare nodded.
That it is. Very vexing to just sit up here and look at it, don't you think?
Yeah, it's kind of...
Twilight agreed.
But it's just one more thing here that makes no sense! The waterfall, the lake, the rain, the bags, even you!
Me? What about it? Something wrong with me?
Sorry.
The unicorn's ears drooped.
That did kind of sound harsh, didn't it? What I mean was, you're just as much of a mystery as this whole place. How did you know me and my friends were coming here? How did you know my name?
Roanoke shrugged.
Couldn't tell you, missy. There's just some things I know, even I don't know why I know them. Places, faces, happenings, sounds, smells, all sorts of stuff going in and out of my old skull. Never really understood it myself. Just funny that way. I've just learned to go with it and let it happen.
Twilight sat up with rapt attention. She had seen this thing before. This sounds like a lot something Pinkie Pie has. Sometimes she'll get a strange twitch, and she'll start to interpret them and figure out what each one means. She calls it her pinky sense.
How interesting.
Roanoke sighed as he gazed out at the lake again.
Like I said, I just let it happen. Trying to figure out how it works would drive you crazy.
That's for sure. Twilight replied with a chuckle. I nearly drove myself mad trying to analyze her pinky sense. So, do you live up here all on your own? The old mare nodded.
Aye, the family's long gone. Either moved away or passed on to greener pastures. But I like it here, so I stay. It's my home and my sanctuary. It's always been funny like this, too. I guess you can feel it. That funny sort of pressure everywhere.
The unicorn looked around. Yeah, I felt it. Usually if I'm in a place with magical energy of any kind, I can feel it right away. But here, it seems so much more subtle. It's like there's some kind of thin, invisible sheet draped over me. It's not heavy or unpleasant, but it's there.
That sounds about right.
Rona nodded again.
This place has always been magical, for as long as I can remember.
Twilight sighed, resting her chin on her hose. I just wish I could stay here a bit longer. I'd give anything to research this place.
You know, young Twilight, a wise young unicorn a long time ago once said something I really take to heart when it comes to places like this. I don't know what he was referring to at the time, but it basically sums up this whole place.
Really? What was it? Twilight asked, her ears perking up. Roanoke leaned close to her, cupping a hoof around her mouth. The unicorn leaned eagerly too, hoping for some explanation.
He said, "It's magic. I don't have to explain anything."
The old mare wheezed with laughter as he leaned back again, slapping her hose against the marble seat below her in her mirth. Twilight, however, frowned at Roanoke.
But, Roanoke, if we never look for explanations and things, how will ponies ever learn about anything? How can we ever make progress?
Well, that's true,
replied Roanoke, when she calmed down and stopped laughing.
But if you spend all your time analyzing and researching everything, you'll miss what's right in front of you. There's a time for studying science, and it does take ponies to new frontiers. But sometimes you need to just sit back and just see the beauty of what's in front of you. Stop looking at the world for a moment and see it instead.
Twilight tried to make a rebuttal, but as her glance was caught by the lake again, she found that she had none. Roanoke was right. For the first time, she was not looking at the area from a critical or technical point of view. Not analyzing, not studying, just seeing. She had never felt such peace. It seemed like they were seated by each other for hours on end, as the night drew on and on. However, both were pulled out of dances, when a strange light flared up from above the waterfall. Twilight looked up and saw a small structure, like a tower or a beacon, set upon the cliffs of the falls. For the tip of a bright light twinkled and shone, like a flicker of a candle flame. Curious, Twilight looked at the old mare, who smiled.
Ah, look at that. It looks like we have another visitor. Come on.
Both mares got up and made their way through the colonnade. Yet, as they approached the twin pillars that marked the boundaries of the strange sanctuary, their sheer curiosity and intrigue began to tear to weariness and anxiety. The closer they got, the more they felt uneasy, as if some subtle change in the air, something foreign, something unclean. As they rounded their bend, they could see where the pillars stood, and between them stood a figure. First glance, it seemed to be little more than another pony, with a black cloak over his withers. But as Twilight looked more, there was something about him that seemed off. Something in how he carried himself, or something odd about his face. But what? He looked normal enough. Earth pony stallion, probably about 25 or 30, but with a pale blue mane and thin, ragged white mane. His mouth was curled to a scowl beneath his hood, his eyes in shadow.
Hello there, sir,
Roanoke said politely, smiling at the newcomer.
How can we help?
For a moment the stallion was silent. Turning to look at Twilight, he said,
You're Twilight Sparkle, correct?
Roanoke turned her eyes upon the unicorn. Twilight took a step back, her unease about this stranger rising with every second. But she steeled herself and answered,
Yes, that's me. Why do you ask?
Because
the stallion looked at the side of his cloak, slightly rummaged inside.
I have a little something for you.
Twilight stepped back again, ready to fight back, or so he tried to attack. It had not escaped her eyes that the cloak he was wearing bore more than a passing resemblance to the cloaks of their unknown assailants in the night. With a single swift motion, the stallion pulled something large and white, swinging it before him. Twilight flinched slightly, her eyes clenched shut, but she felt no impact of any weapon. Cracking an eyelid open, she saw a familiar white saddlebag dangling before her, decorated with a familiar purple star-pierced clamp.
"You'll drop this,"
the stallion said, speaking around the strap of the saddlebag he held before him. The unicorn was stunned for a moment. When finally returned to her legs, she cautiously stepped forward a few paces, before enveloping the bag in a purple aura, lifting it through the air and depositing it on her back.
Oh, well, I guess, thanks. Where did you find it?
"It was out in the plains. You must have dropped it at some point,"
replied the stallion, motioning to the stretches of land before him. The unicorn raised an eyebrow.
Yeah, something like that.
"Well, I won't bother you further, Miss Sparkle. Good night."
With that, he turned on his back hoof and walked toward the plains. Before he could vanish from sight completely, Twilight tried to his side.
Wait, if you don't mind me asking, who exactly are you?
He looked down at the young man and smiled. It was a strange smile, as if his mouth was somehow blurry and out of focus. Similar were his eyes. Twilight could see for the first time. Looking at them was like looking through an unfocused camera, or a sheet of gauze.
"Just a traveler, passing through."
Without another word, he continued on his way, watched by Twilight and Roanoke until he passed over a ridge and was out of sight.
"Oh, Morgoth, you're back."
Morgoth lowered his hood and grinned to his comrades, who still at the hoof of the ridge. One of the cloaked creatures stood up and approached the returning pony, a sickly yellow glow emanating from his twisted horn that curled on his forehead. A similar aura sprung up around Morgoth's eyes and mouth, causing the air to shimmer and ripple, then begin to fade as the illusion spell was banished. Soon, his jagged, sharp teeth and yellow eyes were visible once more.
"How did the illusion hold up?"
asked the horned one. Morgoth clapped behind his back with a foreleg.
"The unicorn was a bit uneasy, but she took it back, no questions asked. Nice work with the disguise spell, Laga."
Laga took his back hood to reveal the face of an old stallion, except for the abnormally curled horn and single tusk that jutted out from the left side of his mouth. Like Morgoth and his companions, he bore the same eyes.
Glad we'll solve us."
Glad to hear you two are so proud of yourselves.
A grating, raspy voice called out from among the others. Parting the small crowd, a larger, bulkier creature stalked towards Morgoth and Laga. His hood fell back a little, showing an off an equine snout, covered in gray-green scales and small spines. He snarled at the smaller ones, black smoke bellowing from his maw at every breath.
"So, Morgoth, care to let us all in on your genius plan anytime soon? Or was give the mount that leaves a valuable weapon back to the little food we took it from? What's all there is to it?"
In response, Morgoth stabbed his foes and snarled at the larger soldier, similar tendrils of smoke wisping from the nostrils.
"Mind your attitude, Satsa. You might be my cousin, but I am still your superior!"
Satsa said nothing in response and dutifully backed down, but not before glaring daggers at his officer.
Actually, sir, what is the plan from here on in?"
Morgoth rounded on the speaker. Was the tiny little one, got up. Backing from his master, got up, raised his claws in supplication.
"Nothing I doubt you or anything. I'm just curious, you know."
The leader suddenly smiled, putting a foreleg around Ghetto's withers.
"Glad you ask. See, as the leader of this unit, it's my job to not only make sure we fulfill our mission of infecting the populace here, but also take care of my troops. I think I've done pretty well thus far, wouldn't you agree? Well, don't answer that. But anywho, the moment I found the little food saddlebag and saw where she and her friends were heading, I contacted command back in Bazaraka. Of course, they were very interested, and he told me to get to those tier things and bring them back."
Ghetto and everybody listening nodded, begrudgingly in Satsa's case.
"Well, since I'm so supposed to take care of my troops, there's no sense in sending them in blind to fetch these tiers. Something that powerful. There's bound to be some kind of protection on it. Guards, traps, that kind of stuff."
The little one nodded.
"I think I see where you're going with this."
Morgoth nodded back.
"Yes, probably. So I'm thinking, why send my own troops in to fetch it, when those ponies are already going there anyways? Why not let them do the hard work for me? And when we gets it, we takes it from them.
Naga added as the plan dawned on him. Gatos gave an admiring smile to his commander.
I swear, sir, with a brain like that, you should be up there in high command.
Sessos, however, was less impressed.
Oh, this sounds like the strategy of a Nathos to me.
The 20 gathered creatures gasped. Even those who could not speak knew the binding insult of those words. Every yellow and black eye fixed upon Morgoth, waiting in surprise. The pony simply glanced over his shoulder, and at his cousin, saw him a wide grin. You'd be the expert, I guess. Ruckus laughter greeted this sharp response, as Seta simply snarled and stomped his way to the other side of the ridge. Morgoth, meanwhile, climbed to the top of the ridge, rested his head on top, peeking over Niagara Falls. Before long, he was joined by Naga and Gunup, who laid down their fronts on the side of him. So there we wait. When they leave, we follow. This time, it was not Fluttershy, but Rarity who was awoken by the divine smell of cooked breakfast. As her eyelids fluttered open, she swept out her curls out of her face and groggily glanced around. All 5 of her friends were in similar states of semi-consciousness.
Roanoke must be cooking us breakfast. Wonderful, wonderful way to start the day.
Slipping daintily out of bed, Rarity tiptoed for a halt through the door, downstairs to the kitchen. Sure enough, there was the old mare, clad once again in her navy blue nightie, carrying a plate of fresh toast to the table.
Good morning, Rarity. I hope you and your friends slept well.
Indeed we did, thank you.
Rarity inhaled the smell of toast with a husky sigh.
A marked improvement over last night's sleeping arrangements. No matter how comfortable a mat and blanket are, they can never outdo a proper bed.
Roanoke chuckled.
I see you're a proper lady, eh?
The white unicorn nodded.
I try to be. Goodness knows it can be hard with friends like mine, but I wouldn't trade them for all the high society ponies in Canterlot.
Good to hear. Just so you know, those ladylike manners of yours would be coming in handy on this trip of yours, if things go that way.
Roanoke replied with a wink. Before Rarity could inquire further, the clatter of hooves on the wooden staircase heralded the arrival of the others. For the next hour, the 6 ponies dined well on toast, honey, jam, oats, nuts, and all manner of fresh fruit, all washed down by a bracing cup of morning tea. Roanoke curled up in a puffy red chair on the side, joining in the conversation once he was not dozing gently. Before long, breakfast was all eaten, leaving behind 6 well-fed and very steady ponies. While the others began clearing out their plates and bowls, Roanoke called Twilight to the side again.
I took the liberty of putting together some directions for you and your friends to follow. They'll get you safe to your destination.
She passed a small sheet of folded parchment over to Twilight, who held it in huff.
Oh, thank you! But how does he know the way? I mean, to be honest, once we reach the Crystal Mountains, we really don't know where to go next.
Rogue pointed to the parchment.
Well, those there directions will get you to wherever you're going, mark my words. It just came to me when I sat down and thought about it for a while. So I wrote it all down. Don't ask me how I know.
It's just funny that way. The old mare wheezed with laughter, joined by Twilight's laughter.
You're a good man, Twilight Sparkle. You and your friends take good care of yourselves.
We will, and thanks again, replied Twilight. Before she could join her friends in clearing things up and preparing to leave, she felt Roanoke's foreleg on her shoulder. Twilight turned around and was surprised at her expression. Gone was Roanoke's usual tearful grin, replaced by a stern and strenuous face.
But once you found that you seek, you and your friends best head right back to where you came from. Nothing but hardship and strife awaits you if you stray from the path,
Roanoke said in a solemn voice. Soon after, the 6 young ponies stood by the twin pillars once again, saddlebags strapped on, food supplies replenished, and ready to go. Roanoke gave each pony a gentle hug in turn.
It'll be sad to see you go. It'd be nice having some pony after again for so long.
We'll be sure to visit you on the way back,
Pinkie Pie replied, looking to the old mare.
Oh, absolutely. This place is just lovely,
Fluttershy added. Applejack tipped her head to Roanoke as he blew up the hug. Y'all take good care of yourself, Miss Roanoke.
I will, Missy. And who knows, maybe someday I'll end up in Ponyville and pay you all a visit,
replied Roanoke. Finally, when they all said goodbyes had been said, the ponies crossed the threshold of Niagara Falls Sanctuary and began the long hike to the Crystal Mountains, Twilight in the lead, Pinkie keeping pace with another cheerful opponents of Ever, Ever On. Roanoke watched with serene smiles they marched off in the distance until they were little more than specks of the horizon. But even there, the old mare's day was not quiet and eventless. Come mid-afternoon, she was informed of the new arrival of a new pony. Sure enough, There, pacing back and forth between the white pillars, was a strange new pony.
Good afternoon, sir,
Roanoke called as she approached the stallion.
how can I help ye?
Need a place to stay for the night?
The stallion stopped his pacing, letting Roanoke get a good look at him. A horn protruded from his brow, just above his gray-brown eyebrows. The curl of which clasped nicely with his pale yellow coat. A long beard stretched from his chin to his knees, and a pale blue cloak was draped over his withers, masking the pointed hat that lay on the ground beside him.
No, not tonight, thank you. I am rather in a hurry. Now, I'm on matters of great interest. Tell me, where can I find young unicorn here by the name of Twilight Sparkle?
Roanoke raised her eyebrows in surprise. How famous was this mare?
Oh, so sorry, you dismissed her. She and her friends headed out for the Crystal Mountains early this morning.
What?
The old mare flinched, flattening her ears against the noise.
Steady on, I may be old, but I'm hardly deaf.
But the old unicorn did not seem to notice, as he swiftly turned around and trotted off in the same direction to Twilight and her friends had taken mere hours ago. Roanoke watched him go, blinking in slight bemusement at her son, a rather odd visitor. But she shrugged, passing back between the pillars and making her way home. But not before she paused briefly to turn back again to look at you.
Don't look to me for explanations, dear Rita. You best get after those ponies and see what happens. They've got plenty of troubles ahead. If only they knew.
Oh, wait a second. Are you talking to me?
Yes, Mr. Live Reader, I am talking to you. I hope you don't mind a little fourth wall breakage here and there.
Yeah. Especially when I get shocked by this.
Well, I hope you enjoyed the rest of the adventure, Mr. User.
It's art. Martial art for user, please.
Potatoes.
With that, she shrugged again and turned to her callers for her mid-afternoon nap. I really hate it when characters talk back.